Ladiray, Plus expert on seasonal adjustments, dear colleagues from ASEANstats. Very good morning to all. I would like to first welcome all of you to this online training. I'm glad that we can organize this training starting today after a long delay due to the uncertainty. I'm pleased that Mr. Ladiray and ASEANstats could find all of us that any potential IT barriers that we may encounter prior and during the training can be mitigated. Plus agreed to support this activity as it will lead to improved capacity building in statistical analysis with the potential of introducing important changes in data dissemination and analysis. We are all aware of the importance of seasonally adjusting quarterly and even monthly or weekly and daily data to be able to see the real movement of the indicators, so not the users. We also understand that this is not an easy topic. It involves sophisticated techniques, especially when dealing with more complex data. For this reason, I agree with the approach that this training, the first training, especially as it is virtual, that we start with something less complicated, namely dealing with quarterly data. We will provide you with a certificate which probably be required to join the follow-up training. We understand that capacity building in such sophisticated techniques cannot be addressed in only one short training. So we probably need not only more training, but also experiences. So I'm pleased when informed that this activity also involves on-the-job training for the ASEANstats, where upon finishing this training, Mr. Ladiray will spend a couple of days to help guide ASEANstats in actually doing seasonal adjustment to some of the available data series. This is to ensure with the tools and to gain some experiences in doing the real work. This is also important to build the capacity that's able to provide support to the member states, hence promoting the ASEAN practice. So I hope you will find this training very useful and you can make the best out of this roughly 11 half-day sessions, hence justifying the need for more advanced training. Okay, with this, I would like to declare this training on seasonal adjustment open. Have a fruitful training, stay safe, and thank you, Paul Mendel. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Agus, for your remarks and also the message from Paul Mendel to all participants. And after this, perhaps I hand over to Siska to continue with the procedure. Yeah, I mean the mechanic, and also perhaps we will take some pictures. For after this, I will give this to Siska. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Lia, and thank you, Pak Agus, and on behalf of Pak Mendel. And good morning, everyone, the participant from 10 ASEAN member states. Thank you for participating the training. So the code of conduct for online training this morning, during the online training, when you are not presenting, please turn off the microphone, or ASEANstats will mute the audio when necessary. And if you want to ask question, you can ask it every time, and then we will compile the question, and you can put your question in the chat room. And then if there is any trouble, you can rejoin the training. So after this, we will have the photo session. I would recommend you to turn on the camera so we can see your beautiful faces in the morning, and then we will take a picture. Okay, Miss Tari from Arise will take the picture, right?
Yeah, I will take the picture.
Okay, there's still from Singapore, Mr. Yong, and from Laos. Yeah. Okay, can you lead me, Miss Tari?
Okay, I will take a picture. Everybody smile. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Miss Tari. Next, we will start the training, and then I will offer this to Mr. Dominique.
You want me to say something? No. Yeah.
To start the training.
You know, for me, it's an experience it will be the first time that I will give a training at 4 o'clock in the morning for me. So it's still night here in Paris, but I'm very happy to be with you. So we will spend quite a long time together. So never hesitate to ask questions, never hesitate to interrupt me, just if you don't feel good. So we will discover each other during the week. Your first task will be to get used to my very thick French accent, but you will succeed, I'm sure. And we will have a good time this week together. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay. And then we will have the administrative briefing for maybe for the agenda for today. We'll try to set up the software on the laptops first, right, Dominique?
Excuse me?
For today's first agenda is to set up the software on the laptops.
Yes, just to know if people have their JDemetra Plus ready for running today.
Yes.
And just to see if everything is okay.
Yeah. So we hope that everybody here is able to install. Is there any difficulties from all of you? I think no, yeah. I already asked on Friday. Correct. And then the next agenda, we will expand on the objective of the seminar.
Okay, so I have to speak, I'm afraid. Yeah. Okay, this is, as Agus said just before, it's a quite technical topic, seasonal adjustment. So do not be afraid of that, because we are going, with the help of Siska, Amalia, and Fatur, we are going to give you a first idea, first test of what seasonal adjustment is. And we will work with the software for a long time, for large number of hours this week. So do not be afraid of that, even it's very technical. You can do it. I have always the same example, is that everyone knows how to manage a car, to drive a car, but very few people are able to open the engine and to fix it. It will be exactly the same for seasonal adjustment. I'm pretty sure that you will be able, at least on quarterly series, to do a very good job, and you will have no problem, except in some occasions. But in this occasion, I'm sure you could count on Siska or on me or everyone to help you. Okay? So the objective of a seminar, in fact, is just that you feel good, you feel relaxed when you run JDemetra. Okay, you know what you have to do, you know exactly how to check the results and so on. So it's a clear objective. If at the end of a seminar you say, okay, I'm still lost, I'm a bad professor, I'm a bad teacher. Okay, so never, as I said just before, never stay alone. If you have any question, please ask it immediately. Don't let the train goes away. So just stay with us. Do not forget that you have a right to raise the hand and to tell Siska or Amalia that something is going wrong for you. Okay? So thanks by advance for you to do that. So are the objectives pretty clear? It's a very practical objective. I want you to know what seasonal adjustment is and how you can perform it easily with the software. So I think, is it clear, Siska? Yeah, for you? Yeah.
Yeah, it's clear. Is there the question from the participants? Maybe what is the objective of the sensitivity adjustment for time series data? Maybe they have some question. Or we can start the training for the agenda one.
Okay, so if there's no question, I can start with you all have access to the slides, but I'm going to use them, of course. So I am going to share my screen. You, Siska or Fatur, you deactivate the screen sharing.
The host.
Because I'm a participant, I cannot.
Oh.
Pak Eka, please, or
share.
Kari.
The host, yeah, can make Dominique as the host.
Sorry, Dominique, you can try it again.
It's done now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, you're welcome.
So I will go to my my slides. So can you see the slide? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, it is okay for everyone.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'm going just to start. If we want to have a complete grand tour of seasonal adjustment, is pretty difficult because it's a huge amount of information and topics. If I want to do that, I would have to cover methods and software, what is seasonal adjustment, ARIMA model, spectral analysis, pre-adjustment, moving averages, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. So we are not going to cover everything this week. I'm just going to give you a flavor of what seasonal adjustment is. I'm used to say that every seasonal adjustment is like a Lego game. So every piece of the Lego, of the puzzle, if you want, is very simple. But when you put them together, you obtain a quite complex object, and sometimes it appears to be a bit difficult. But it's not so difficult, really. I can tell you that it's not so difficult. So my idea will be to give you a quite complete but basic idea of a seasonal adjustment problem. We will have of course, we will need some definitions and to know what are the methods and software for seasonal adjustment. Common definitions are very, very important, and so we will agree on the meaning of each word in seasonal adjustment. You will have, at the end of the seminar, I'm sure, a good understanding of basic tools. You will be able to run JDemetra to explore, decompose, and adjust the time series. You will be able to use, we will discuss that, thermocytes or X13 ARIMA, I guess X13 for ASEAN countries, and you will be able to check the quality of the adjustment. So, as I said just before already twice, but I will repeat it every time, the training is supposed to be interactive. So, just have in mind that questions, suggestions, and comments are always very welcome, okay? And you will work on your own time series, which is definitely very important for the understanding of the training. And remember this quotation, there's no silly question, just maybe stupid answers. Never hesitate to ask a question. We are 24, let us say we are 24. If someone does not understand something, it's likely that at least 3 or 4 people in the group do not understand the same thing. So never be shy, just ask the question. The only guilty people here will be me, and perhaps Siska, but I will be, if you do not understand, it's just because I'm not doing a good job, okay? So just stop me each time you feel uncomfortable. So what I'm going to put on the menu today, the first thing, why should we adjust Q&A data and why not using the annual growth rate? Usually people, when they are commenting the evolution of a time series, are using the annual growth rate because it's simple, it's very easy to understand and so on. We will see that it's not very, very easy. In fact, it's not a very good tool. And we will demonstrate it today and this week with your own time series. So the second thing I would like to comment, to stress today, is the fact that if seasonal adjustment can be done quite easily, unfortunately, you have some policy implication of seasonal adjustment. And the first one is that it will add another thing to your process. So when you your production process, when you have in mind to deliver the quarterly data, for example, for the GDP, usually you have a very tight schedule. You are running out of time when the date approaches. So the problem is that you will have to add a new important point in your production process just before the release of the data. And sometimes it's not very comfortable and it will make you a bit stressed. So you must think about that before to try to make it as industrial as possible. So, and today we will have our first contact with the software and the first and blind seasonal adjustment of both Q&A data and trade statistics. You will see that it's not, at least to run things, is not very difficult. So this is the idea for today. It's not nothing, but we will succeed. So the big question is, before we do that, we should ask ourselves, why should I seasonally adjust a time series? In fact, there is, let us say, 3 reasons. The first reason is a very old reason. You can find this idea in a quotation from Jevons in 1862, so a long time ago, okay? And he said, every kind of periodic fluctuation, whether daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or yearly, must be detected and exhibited, not only as a subject of study in itself, but because we must ascertain and eliminate such periodic variations before we can correctly exhibit those which are irregular or non-periodic and probably of more interest and importance. So it's a very old idea, is that in many time series, the seasonal, there's some periodicity in the series that could hide the real evolution of the economy. For example, in most of the countries in the world where Christmas is celebrated, you have a huge increase of the sales during December, and it's not because the economy is getting better, it's just because Christmas is in December. You have at the moment for a lot of Asian countries, you celebrate the Chinese New Year. So it's a huge event in China, but also in Vietnam and a lot of countries. And it will have a huge impact on the economy. And it does not mean that the economy is going well. It just means that this is Chinese New Year, okay? So you must take this kind of elements into consideration before you make the correct analysis of the economy. So this is the first thing. The second thing, I would say, it's to improve comparability. For example, how can you compare one quarter to the other? How can you compare, for example, the fourth quarter of the year with, for some countries, Christmas, and the first quarter of the following year with, for example, Chinese New Year, or with February, which is a smaller month. So you have a question that the question is that the quarters are not directly comparable because they are affected by some things. For example, some festivals, or for example, not the same number of days. So you have to take that into account to make a sound judgment on the evolution of the economy. Another thing is also to improve the comparability, but not between over time, but across space. And it's more and more important to do that. It's to try to compare two economies. For example, I will show you an example just in a few minutes. It's very difficult if you want to compare the economies of two countries in different parts of the world, in particular if they are in two different hemispheres. If you take one in the North Hemisphere and one in the South Hemisphere, because the seasons are inverted, you will have a problem. For example, when Europeans are freezing at work, Australian or South Africans are burning on the beaches. So they are on holidays when we are working. So if you compare the direct series, you will have a problem. When it decreases in France, it will increase in Australia or South Africa, just because of the seasons, not because of the state of the economy. And you might have, it's very, very important nowadays when you want to, because we are in a mondial economy. So you need to know to compare the economy, your economy to your principal partner's economy. And if you want to do that, you must correct from some effects. Not that it's also the case when you are in your own country and you want to compare the different sectors of the activity. The agriculture and the industry do not have the same regularities, do not have the same periodicities. The impact of the seasons is different on the agriculture and on the industry. So you must correct from that. And usually you know that, and usually you do that using the annual growth rate. I'm going to talk a bit about that just in a few seconds. Is it okay for the sound? Just a question, a small technical question. Is it okay for the sound and for the slides? Everyone is okay? There's no comment?
Yes, okay.
No? Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. My French accent is not too thick. Yeah, you can understand me. Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So this is a graph I'm used to use to demonstrate the problem of a seasonal adjustment. Here you have two IPIs, Industrial Production Indexes, one from France and another from South Africa. So if you look at the data, so in red, you have France, and in blue, you have South Africa. You cannot see a lot of things. It's very difficult to comment these kind of figures. If you want to compare the two economies, it's difficult. Why? Just only because you can see that here, for example, when you are low in South Africa, you are pretty high in France. And the two series are quite erratic. The two series are obviously very seasonal. You see a peak here in the red curve, and you see another peak here on the blue curve, regular peak. So the two series are highly seasonal, but it's very difficult to compare them because of the fact that the two countries are just not on the same hemisphere. So the seasons are inverted. So you need to do the seasonal adjustment. If you do that, this is the curves you are going to obtain. And with these curves, the story is evident. You can just have a look, and now you can comment things. You can say that, for example, since 1980, the South African economy was growing very, very fastly and was very close in index, not in volumes, of course, in index, not in levels. And they just reached the same point, roughly, the same state of the economy in 10 years after the beginning of a series. And they had exactly the same drop down during the subprime crisis in 2008. And after, you can see that perhaps it's here the most important thing. I will try perhaps to do what it's not it's not working so well. I was thinking it will work easily, but I will try later. Okay, here you have the point. You can see that probably France recovered a bit earlier, but it was a bit more difficult for South Africa. But after, you can see that South Africa is performing better than France. Okay, so after the seasonal adjustment, you can tell something. It was much more difficult just before. Oh, sorry, I come back. Here, it's impossible to see that. You cannot see here that that France is recovering slightly earlier, and that South Africa is performing better at the end. It's impossible to say that, okay? But on the seasonally adjusted figures, you can do it. So, yes, of course, it's obvious that if I'm using seasonally and calendar adjusted data, I have here something which is very important, and I can comment the economy of the two countries. I can compare them. But what if I was using the annual growth rate only? So the point is that, let me give you the definition of the annual growth rate, and after we will comment things, okay? So the annual growth rate, if I take a quarterly series, it's just very easy. You compare the situation on quarter T to the situation of the same quarter 4 quarters before, so the year before, okay? So it's 100 x sub t minus x sub t minus 4 divided by x sub t minus 4, okay? So this is a very simple equation and very simple definition. And it's very, very used for a first analysis of a series. If I do not have, to be honest, if I do not have my laptop with me and JDemetra, I will conduct this kind of analysis with my my pen and paper. I will do that. It's very easy to compute. It's very easy to understand. But you have big issues, two big issues. The first issue is that it assumes that it's not clear here, but I will demonstrate it later. It assumes that the seasonal component and the calendar effects are constant in time. So the seasonal component is always the same for each quarter, okay? It's the first idea. And the second idea is that the calendar effects are constant. Let me give you an example, you will understand it. I do not know for each country of ASEAN, I do not know what are the big festivals. But let me take the example of Chinese New Year, which is celebrated in Vietnam, for example, as far as I remember, and probably in other countries of ASEAN. You have right now a huge impact. No, sorry, it's yeah, I will take it anyway. You have a huge impact of Chinese New Year in February this year. It was the 12th of February, okay? So you have a huge impact. If you are using quarterly data, it's not a problem because the Chinese New Year is always in the first quarter of a year, okay? So, and for example, if you take your Indian friends, Diwali is always in the last quarter. It's in October and November, I guess. So it's always in the last quarter of a year. So like Christmas for the French people, it's not a problem when you compare quarter to quarter, okay? But if you have a monthly series, it's impossible. You cannot compare February to January if you have a Chinese New Year in February and that in last year it was in January. It's so you know that it's so big that I saw that, I don't know if it's still the case, but a few years before, when you went to the Chinese website, National Statistical Institute of China website, you were not able to find data for monthly data for January and February for some series, very impacted by the New Year. And you had just January plus February. So they were mixing, adding up the 2 months, and after you add March, April, and so on. So it's and as the calendar effects are moving, you cannot do a growth rate. And you take a risk when you are doing that. I told you that for quarterly series, it can be okay. That's why I'm using quarterly series in this training. I didn't ask for monthly time series because with monthly time series, as we have 8 countries, you might have 8 different calendars. And it's a nightmare for a trainer to try to, especially if you are not from one of a country. So you do not understand what's going on. So that's why with quarterly series, it's always much easier. So this is the first thing. Think about Muslim countries where you have a lot of Muslim countries, or the part of Muslim people in your country is pretty high. So Ramadan is celebrated quite a lot, and Ramadan is moving across the Gregorian year. So you cannot, sometimes you are going to change the quarter. Ramadan is going to go to the first quarter when it was in the second quarter of the previous year. So you will have a problem, okay? So it's really disturbing, and you cannot do anything with the annual growth rate. And the second thing is perhaps the most disturbing point is that by definition, by construction, the annual growth rate is going to introduce a delay in the detection of a turning point, which means that if you, we will see that very quickly with your own time series, even on quarterly series. You will comment that the annual growth rate is still negative when the economy is already recovering. So the situation is better, and you will say that it's still going down, which is not the case. Let me give you the idea, or perhaps no. Let me give you the first idea. Okay. Just for the sake of demonstration, it's a very simple graph. It looks complex, it's not. Let me explain. You have here the real data. Let us say that this is the blue curve. It's just a parabola, nothing, just for the sake of the example. So here is the turning point, okay? It's clear. You have no noise, you know that the turning point is there, okay? So let me suppose that I am now let us suppose that it's a quarter. So I am 1 quarter before, okay? So if I compute the annual growth rate, I'm going to compare this quarter, you see this one, to 4 quarters before to this one. So I'm going to compare, you have the orange line. So you see that the orange line is declining. So the annual growth rate will be negative, okay, for this point. For the point after, it will also be negative because you are going to compare this point to this point. This is the green line. So it's still negative. Here, it will be still negative, but you are recovering already. So you have a problem. You are going to comment a negative growth rate when the real growth rate is positive. You are in a good situation, better situation, and you are going to comment something wrong. And here, the point after it will be okay. And just, let us say, two quarters after or 3 quarters after, you are going to comment positive growth rate, okay? An increase in the production, for example. So this is the most important point. Of course, people are not stupid, and you know that. But let me show you a real example. This one is, I took it because it was clear. It was Singapore quarterly GDP. So you can see that it's pretty correct. I mean, you have a huge increase, okay? And suddenly you have a COVID crisis. So the first quarter, the second quarter of, I think this is the first and the second quarter, yeah, of the year are decreasing, strongly decreasing. There's no doubt, okay? And now, since the third quarter, it's increasing again, okay? We don't know what will happen. With this curve, we don't know if we have a second breakdown or if it's going to increase. I don't know. We will discuss that probably when we are going to work on a monthly time series later, okay? But if I take now the annual growth rate, what will happen? Of course, it's not at the same period, but you can see that everything was positive until, let us say, until 2000, I cannot read exactly, 2018 or something like that. It's still positive, but much less. And suddenly, it becomes very negative. This is the second quarter, okay? And you have this here, the third quarter. So the annual growth rate is still negative, but the economy was perhaps recovering already. So, okay, you know that. And you are, but if you want to comment it, it becomes really difficult because you are going to say that it's decreasing, but less than before. So somehow it's increasing. But you see, it's impossible to write a sentence describing that. It's impossible to understand. But the graph is really clear. And if we adjust it, we will see it. If we do the seasonal adjustment, we will see that clearly the third quarter was positive even in adjusted data, in seasonally adjusted data. So this is the point. And do not forget, let me come back, this thing, this sentence from Jevons. One of the most important work of a statistician economist is to comment the short-term evolution of the economy. But the short-term evolution of the economy means turning points. You cannot afford to miss a turning point. You cannot afford it. Why? Because think about it. Of course, because it will be wrong. But think that when you are in statistics, you're always late. You're always late because you need time to for the production of figures. Okay, for the quarterly national account, of course, you need at least 2 or 3 months to have the figures for the, let us say, for the last quarter. For the last quarter of the year, you cannot have them before, let us say, February, March, April. So by construction, you will be late. You cannot afford to be late one quarter more. You cannot afford that. You see what I mean? Yeah. Do you understand the main default of quarterly, the annual growth rate, which is the delay? You cannot avoid it. It's impossible. It's embedded in the definition of a growth rate. So when you are involved in the short-term economic business, you must work on seasonally adjusted data because you will be able to compare 2 quarters in a row. You will be able to compare this quarter to the previous one, which is not possible with the annual growth rate. Is there any question about that? This is a really important thing. Is there any question? No, so far so good. Yeah.
Dominique, the seasonal adjustment, is it correct if we just quote 1 point, for example? I see that the seasonal adjustment, from my point of view, is used for a time series. But is it correct if we just use 1 point and we say something with that, only that point? For example, last quarter, we quote the seasonal adjustment figure. Do you think it's correct, or? Thank you.
No, when you are in the time series business, most of your comments will be on the evolution of things. So you need at least 2 points to comment on evolution, okay? So if you have a seasonally adjusted data, you will be able to comment the evolution. There's no problem. But of course, with 1 point, you cannot compare anything. You cannot say, yes, you could perhaps compare, I don't know, the GDP, Singapore GDP in constant values to Chinese GDP for the same quarter, but there's nothing you can really do. In fact, you must compare you must comment an evolution each time. This is your business, I would say. After this, there's another question behind the one you ask, which is, if I want to perform a seasonal, can I perform a seasonal adjustment on 2 points? No, you cannot. You cannot, because you see that you are going to remove the season, okay? So let us say the fact that for any reason, the first quarter is higher than the second quarter, okay? For example, because of the weather, because of a festival, because of whatever, okay? So, so you need to make the difference between the first or second quarter. But to comment the difference, to make an assessment of a difference, you need several years, because you need to assess the value of the first quarter and to assess the value of the second quarter. So to assess the value of one of the 2 quarters, you need at least 3 points, 3 years, to have 3 first quarter. With 3 first quarter, you are going to say, on average, I can say that my first quarter is equal to, and on average, my second quarter is equal to, and after you can compare them. But with just 1 year, you cannot estimate your seasonal component, okay? Could be an accident, could be the Chinese New Year.
Yeah, actually, my question is not comparing. My question is on 2 quotes a figure, which is figure of this, the result of seasonal adjustment. For example, the GDP of Indonesia, for example, $1 billion, and then the seasonal adjusted actually only 900 million, for example. Can I quote this 900 instead of 1 billion to in an analysis, for example,
you can,
without saying
you can,
without, yeah.
The difference between the 2 figures, the raw data and the seasonally adjusted data, the differences are usually the seasonal component and the calendar effect. I will discuss that later. You give me some time, you will have a definition probably tomorrow. Today is more your first discover of a seasonal adjustment, and so we will come back to your question tomorrow morning, or for tomorrow. Okay. But the answer is that the difference between the 2 is the seasonal and calendar component. But it will be probably more evident tomorrow, okay? So you see the point. I would like to show you another example, which is the French monthly API. I said that I'm not going to deal with monthly data this week, but I need some monthly data to show you that the annual growth rate could be tricky to So here you have the French monthly GDP, and you have here the COVID crisis. So if I look at the annual growth rate, you see that it's huge. I mean, the crisis is huge. So when it falls down, you see it immediately. Okay, so here you have, I guess, March, April, May, and June. Okay, but you are still commenting a negative annual growth rate when the economy was recovering. Okay, we are in June here. Probably with the new data, I will have better figures. But the economy is already recovering for 2 months, and you are still commenting a negative annual growth rate. And to say that it is recovering, you are going to say, yes, it is decreasing, but less than it was decreasing the previous months. So in fact, because it decreased less, it's increasing. Nobody can understand that. Nobody. But with seasonally adjusted data, you will see that things are increasing. And it's not the last the last data. I know that in France, we had a second turn down just after with a second wave of COVID, but it's not as huge as this one, okay? So let me, and after we will go to the, we will go to the software. Okay, I don't want to give you too much information this morning. The objective of the morning is to hands-on the data, okay, just to run the software. So let me stress something, what the policy implication of seasonal adjustment. You have to keep in mind that it will take time. It will take time for you to incorporate the seasonal adjustment in your production process, not because seasonal adjustment is a difficult thing, but because it is something that you are going to add to a production process which is already very, very tight. So it will be difficult for that to find time to incorporate the adjustment in your production process. So it will change the organization of the production. The first thing, you need to be trained. It's not so difficult as we will see. It's not so difficult. The point is that the challenge is the following. Okay, it's not difficult. I can drive the car. But what if I have an accident? So if there is something is going wrong for any reason, you must have people who are able to fix it quickly, because you have no time. Keep in mind that the seasonal adjustment is will be the last step before you disseminate the series. So let us imagine, for example, you have in mind to disseminate the series this Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock. It means that everything should be ready by 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. the Tuesday. So it means that the data should be ready probably Monday, the raw data, and you will have just half day to conduct the seasonal adjustment and to make the press release, which is very, very tight, very tight. It's possible. A lot of countries is doing that in the world. Most of the countries is doing that for every, so it's not impossible. It's common, I would say, even common. But you need to be trained for that, and you need to think about how I'm going to change the production process. A bad idea would be to say, which is often the case, I'm going to do my production process in an Excel sheet or in JDemetra itself. I will run the adjustment, I will open the software, I will run the adjustment, and I will keep back the output and publish the output, check the output and publish the output. It's a bad idea because you have a manual intervention. Each time you have a manual intervention, you will surely have problems. At one time, you will have a problem. So the best idea is to try when you get comfortable with seasonal adjustment, you are going to try to industrialize the process. So you will never, at least at INSEE, usually we never open JDemetra Plus. Once a year to check the models and things like that. But when it's a common production, monthly production, we just run it, not blindly, but we do not open JD Plus. We have an automatic output of a quality report. And if a series is going wrong, then and only then we are going to open the software to have a look to the series itself. So you see, you must think about an industrial process, something that is going without smoothly. You push the button, you get the quarterly report. You get the quality report, okay? So you must have that in mind, okay? Now, I'm going to, this week, we are going to use a software which is called JDemetra Plus. I will perhaps tell you why we call it JDemetra Plus. I will tell you. It's a very strange name, to say the least, but it has a meaning. So this is the European time series software for official statistics, which means that it has been endorsed both by Eurostat and the ECB in 2015 for the official statistics. So nowadays, I would say that 99% of the European statistics for each member state, any seasonally adjusted figures are obtained with JD+. This is the software used by every country. I would say that we have a help desk, and I receive questions now from perhaps, I do not remember exactly, but I think it's more than 100 institutes in the world. So I'm sure that a large part of the National Statistical Institute in the world is using JD+. Now, I will explain why later, okay? So why JD+, why JDemetra Plus? Okay, it's a story which has absolutely no interest, but I'm going to tell you anyway. A long time ago, I would say perhaps at the end of the 90s, 98, something like that, perhaps a bit before, Eurostat decided to help in the design of a seasonal adjustment software. At this time, there were two different methods very popular in the world. The first one was the X11, X12, X13. I'm going to detail that tomorrow probably. Developed by the North America, either by the United States or Canada. It depends on the time. I will tell you that later. And another one developed in Spain by Agustin Maraval, by the Bank of Spain, which was Tramosids. So you had two different softwares. And Eurostat decided to put the two softwares in one shell, with just one interface. And we decided to do that, and the project was called Demetra. Why Demetra? Because most of people at this time at Eurostat were Italians, and Demetra is the goddess of a season in the mythology, Roman mythology. And Demeter is the equivalent in the Greek mythology. Yeah. And so you have Demetra, okay. But this first program was really bad. And nobody was using it in the big institutes. And so only the new member states were using it from the East because it was offered by Eurostat, but it was not good. And so you had the first release, which was Demetra Plus, which was developed already by the National Bank of Belgium. And it was much better, much better. And for example, INSEE began to use it in production. So we use Demetra Plus since for 15 years now, or something like that. One default of Demetra Plus was that it was only available in Windows. So they decided to rewrite everything in Java and to make a free open source and multi-platform software. So now it's completely free, it's completely open, and it's completely developed in Java. So the G is for Java, JDemetra Plus. So you have the history of the name. I can see, I think, is it your son, Siska, behind you? Yeah. I saw
Yes.
a young guy. It's good to see. He's interested in statistics already.
Still child.
Okay. So you see, just a bit of history. Nowadays, it's really heavily used everywhere in the world. And now we have a complete link with our software. So for example, I'm coming back to the production issue. In most of the countries, now the production is based on R. So R is used as a script to talk with JDemetra through the package R JDemetra. I will talk perhaps a bit about it in the second training, more advanced training. So what is doing JDemetra Plus? At the moment, it implements the two main seasonal adjustment method, Thermoseats and X13 ARIMA. I will discuss that later, okay? Tomorrow, certainly tomorrow. But seasonal adjustment is just the small part of the iceberg. In fact, JDemetra Plus can do much more than seasonal adjustment. And for example, for the quarterly national accounts, JDemetra Plus can do the benchmarking. You can do also some nowcasting with JDemetra Plus. You can do a lot of things, but for the moment, we are going to focus on seasonal adjustment. Okay. So I'm going here with this slide. You have a lot of information. So let me detail what I'm calling the seasonal adjustment triptych. So you have the guidelines. The guidelines, it's a document issued by Eurostat, something like 50 pages, quite a big document, which is going to tell you how you should perform a seasonal adjustment, what is the strategy, what are the big ideas. It's a very good document if you want to be in the seasonal adjustment business. It's a good document. It's going to be revised this year. You have a software, of course. The software is JDemetra Plus, and you downloaded the last version dated from July 2020. You can get it on GitHub. It's completely free, completely multi-platform, and so on. The objective of the software is to make you able to apply the guidelines. So the software is just the tool. You have the guidelines, and to apply the guidelines, you use this feature of the software. And we finish the triptych by the methodology. It's a handbook of seasonal adjustment has been published in 2018, 2 years ago. It's a huge paper, a huge book, 800 pages, something like that. And to be honest, everything what I know about seasonal adjustment is in this book. I do not know something more, perhaps just tiny things, but it's very, very complete. So if you want, I know it's not always, but if you want to fix the engine, I told you that to drive, you can drive a car without being able to fix the engine. But if you want to fix the engine, perhaps you will have to read some of these things, okay? But you can drive without knowing them. And you have also this, which is important for you, you have also the European Time Series Analysis Center of Excellence, which is running since 2016, and which will give you access to a resource center. You have, in particular, a huge documentation, a wiki documentation on the web, and you have a help desk. You can always contact the help desk, even if you are not European. Yesterday, I answered to a question from someone from Argentina. So it could be a private company, it could be, we answer to people. We do not do the job for them, but we answer to a question. Okay, so you can have access to this help desk very easily. So it's important for you for the future, just to keep in mind that, okay, you are going probably, because a lot of international organizations are asking for that, you are going to do seasonal adjustment, but you are not alone. Okay, you can deal, you can count on the community, in particular on the Center of Excellence. It turns out that I'm the coordinator of the Center of Excellence. This is my job at the moment. So now, what I want just to the last thing I want to comment is that you can find on YouTube a tutorial from Andrea Mirica from Romania. It's a good tutorial. It's a 17-minute tutorial that gives you a pretty good idea of the software. But the best is probably to play with the software. Okay. So what I suggest now, I don't know what time it is. I will check. Oh, it should be sleeping now. Siska, I hate you. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I cannot. Okay, what I suggest perhaps is that we spend a few minutes now to answer to questions, if you have some, that you take a few minutes also to try to launch JD+, and when everyone is okay with that, we can start your first exercise with JD+. Okay. What do you think, Siska? Is it okay for you?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
So is there any question?
Yeah.
So,
is there any question from the participants?
No, it seems that everything is okay. So try to keep in mind that be very prudent if you use the annual growth rate, okay? When you to analyze the time series. Do that if you do not have seasonally adjusted figures, of course, you have to do it. Yeah. But it's better, really, it's better to have seasonally adjusted data. Okay, so perhaps the second thing will be to, if you could try to launch a JD+. I'm not saying that we are going to use immediately JD+, but I want to be sure that everyone is okay. So I could suggest, if you agree, Siska, that
yes,
everyone tries to launch the software.
Yeah.
And if and we can take perhaps a short break, okay, just to be sure that everything is okay with that. Okay, because after, in the second part of the morning of the training, in this part, we are going to use only JD+. Okay. So I will show you. We will play with the software, and you will see that you are going to do incredible things in a few seconds. Okay, so so it can if you can just monitor the work now, just to check that everyone is okay. and we take perhaps 5 minutes to make
break, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Siska, I think I suggest that everyone, especially in the Zoom, in this Zoom meeting, they comment on the chat that their JDemetra running okay. Everyone, I think. For example, me, I will comment mine running okay in my PC.
Yeah. Mr. Cameron also from Cambodia already. Yeah, okay. So everyone right now. Writing now. Okay. Malaysia, Philippines, okay. Indonesia, okay. Okay.
Sounds good. I can see that on the chat. 11, 12. Wow. Everything.
Oh, no, still not yet.
Ah, no. Ah,
From Lao, last week you said that the IT guy will help you to install it. Have it solved yet or not, Mr. Yaifo? Okay. Okay, you will get the help from IT. Right? Okay.
okay. I will leave you for a few minutes. I will have a new coffee. I need some coffee. So,
Okay.
just,
Everyone also can.
just a few
So,
minutes, just to complete.
okay.
So we have a problem with Laopedia. Okay.
Siska, my coffee is not coming yet.
Okay, I'll sell you. So everyone can have a coffee now. Dominic, can
Yeah.
I ask you something? I lost in the first session just a bit. There's a QBS and Q&A data. What it stands
QBS,
for?
no, QBS, it's, sorry, I took the slides from another training in Maldives, and QBS was quarterly business surveys, and I forgot to remove it. I will correct it. So Q&A,
Okay.
you understand, I should have put trade and Q&A. I will change it and send it a corrected version to you later. Okay, I apologize.
Thank you.
I apologize. So you were not sleeping. No, no, good. Okay, so I will use your idea, Fatur, to use the loop. I do not know how to say that in English. I forgot, but to increase the things. Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah. Actually, I want to suggest precision on when you show us a small graphic to use this. I saw
Yeah,
that it's there already, yeah, the zoom
yes, I tried
menu.
to do that just before, but was not completely sure how to move in the screen, because this is the opposite. I mean, if you want to go on the up left, you have to go with the mouse. You have to go up left. So it's different from the usual behavior. Anyway, I will succeed now. Thank
Yeah.
you. It
Yeah.
was really a good suggestion. So when you think we are ready, we can go on, Siska. It's up to you. You take the lead, okay? You are the organizer.
Yeah. So we hope everyone is ready back from the coffee break. Can we go on?
If you want, yeah, it's up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So before we really open GD Plus and play with GD Plus, I want to comment a bit on the raw data. I received two files, in fact, two Excel files, more than two, but anyway. Yes, I received some. I will show you the quarterly GDP. I don't know which one is right. Yeah, I received the quarterly GDP. You do not have this file, but just to comment a bit, this is what I received.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing, but sorry, when you put the zoom, it's always in the wrong part of the screen. But anyway, so this is what I received. Okay, for example, it's an example. So it's a file which is in fact dedicated to publication, to dissemination. It's probably an extraction or something like that from a database. So it's more for I would say dissemination. GD Plus does not like that.
Yeah.
Not at under no statistical software will like it. Why? Because you, for example, here you have a lot of different things which are not time series. Okay, so the time series are starting there. Here you have some information, base year, unit value, and so on, which is okay. It's not, but you see that the JDemetra Plus must have some kind of standardized input and not input that could bring some kind of confusion. Where are the data? What is the title of a series and so on. So I cannot use directly this kind of file. So, and one point, very important point I will show you. Sorry. So, okay. I will show you now the data suitable for JD+. You see here, it's the same. It's exactly the same. I was not supposed to remove colors or whatever. It's not a matter for JD+. But what I need to have here in the first line or in the first column, I will show you that for the trade statistics, I took the series in column, I guess. I must have an Excel date. So this one, this date, this it's a date. It's not it's an Excel date. It's before. You cannot use, for example, 2010 Q1. If you use that, JD Plus will not understand this is a date. And if you put this kind of date, JDemetra will know immediately that this is a quarterly time series. Okay, so you must have a date. It's compulsory. Okay, I will show you. So I prepare just the data. I change just and I remove, for the sake of the demonstration, some empty figures. Oh, I saw something which was interesting. I do not remember. It was perhaps Myanmar. Yeah, here. It was interesting because for 2018, for any reason, you only have two data. Okay, you only have 2 quarters. So let me show you the raw data how they were. It's this one. Let me show you. Yeah, if you look at this one, I'm sorry.
2018.
Yeah. It was. It's not there. Where? Oh, did
Myanmar. That's Malaysia.
Yeah, you put Malaysia.
I'm not on the right.
MM.
Yeah, sorry. I apologize. I'm not. Yeah. So you can see that here we have a problem. Yeah. Okay. You see that for 2018, you have it's called Q1, April to June. So it's Q2, in fact. Okay. So no data for Q1. You have data from April to June, so the Q2, and you have from July to September, so Q3, and no data for
2018.
For Q4. Okay, so I put them in the right timing, if I understood well. So for Q1, you have nothing, Q2, Q3, and Q4. Okay, so in this case, I have missing values, but you will see it will not disturb JD+. JD+ will estimate these missing values. So this is a very good thing, except if missing values are the right value. for any reason. I'm not talking of, I don't know why we do not have these two.
Actually, Dominique, I'm sorry. The reason why Myanmar they didn't submit the another 2 quarters to us, because at this time they make the change their fiscal year. First from April to March, and then they change from October to September.
Okay, I
So
understand.
in this 2018, they don't. The other 2 quarter is moved to 2019 because
Okay.
they changed the fiscal year. Yeah, that's the reason in this.
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't see that. In 2019, you have more. Yes, I didn't
Like
know that.
double. Yeah.
No, which is okay.
The
No,
figures
it's okay.
like double. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. So, I'm sorry. So, you have a good, I mean, it's a very good thing for you because JDemetra is going to estimate these two series. So, for you, it will be, you will have to check the values, of course, but it should be transparent for you because you will have real estimates of a 2 quarters, 2 missing quarters. Estimates that are going to be done with a complete time series. So they will be coherent with the series. Okay, we will see that later. I noticed that during but it was really important, and I'm not sure. So
Yeah, I think
just to
it's
be
also
sure,
important.
it's really Q1 and Q2. So when I saw the raw data, I understood because I was not aware that the first Q1, I saw April to June. So for me, it was April to June, so it's Q2. But you are telling me, no, it's the fiscal year. Is it Q2 or is it really Q1? No, it's complex. I do not understand. So I guess it is Q1 really, no?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
only Myanmar that use the fiscal year.
Yeah.
The other 9 countries use January to December for their data.
So it was really Q1. We agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
April to June.
So
Yes.
it was really Q1 and Q2. They are referring to the first quarter and they are referring to the second
quarter, yeah.
And April to June, it just, okay, I understand. So I made a mistake. So you are going to correct it. Everyone is going to correct it. I made a mistake that these two columns should be on the right, on the left, okay? They should refer to the first and second quarter. They should be there as they were in the raw data. My mistake, okay? So please, for everyone, I will send again the file this afternoon, okay? So you can share it, Siska, the right file for the coming days. So my mistake, okay? So here we do have 2 missing values and we will estimate them. So we agree on that. It was really data from Q1 and Q2. Yeah.
Okay.
You see the point, yeah? Anyway, it's not a big deal, but you see that you must have a date, an Excel date for JD+. So this kind of file, you cannot use it directly in JD+, because JD+ does not know what is the starting date and the ending date. Now, let me show you the file for the trade statistics. So I send you another file, which is completely different, not completely. You see, I put in the same file exports, imports, and total. Okay. And I have here, in this case, the date variable is the first column. It doesn't matter for GD+. GD+, you can put it in column or in row, but the first column or the first row must be an Excel date. This is the only requirement from GD+. So you put it, and you see that I have all the data here, okay? So I might have missing values. I don't think I have missing values in this file, but I might have. It does not, too many missing values in a row will be a problem, but just a few missing values will not be a problem for GD+. Okay, so up, I close the two files. I save this one. Okay, so now if everyone is ready, we can run GD+. So I'm going to run it. You already did.
Hi, Mr. Dominique.
Yeah, please.
I'm Aini from Malaysia. Just to ask, is it okay for date we put a date for end month of each quarter?
If you want, yeah.
Yes.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's just my way to do it. So I just put the first of the quarter because I'm lazy, and the first of the quarter is always first. But the end of the quarter could be 31. You see, it's not always the same. So just because I'm lazy, I'm putting one. But in fact, you could notice later if you are you will see that GD+ is going to do automatically what you suggest. So for GD+, when you give a value for a month of a quarter, it will assign the value to the end of a quarter of a month. So even if I put the 1st of January, it will put for quarterly data the 31 of March. It will change the date to be in line with what you were saying just before. Okay?
Okay.
Good.
Thank
So
you.
you open GD+. So now I will use the Zoom. Just, I will try to use it. So if you have a look to the left, you will see this kind, you will see that you have in fact, so this is the bad thing with the Zoom.
Yeah, just suggestion. Just move the mouse without click anything. It will go to any direction.
Thank you so much. So here you see that I'm using GD+ 2.2.3 as you are doing. We have several windows here. I'm not going to click on them right now. And here you see that you have two big sheets. The first one is providers, and the second one is workspace. We will use the workspace is a very important window. I'm going to use it a bit later, not today, probably tomorrow or the day after, because this is the way you are going to save your work, okay? But now we are not going to save anything. We are just playing with the software. So we just try to read data. And to read data, you are going to use the providers. Providers for us, you see that you have several providers, but one which is very convenient for us for this training is spreadsheet. So with this provider, you will be able to read any Excel file. So to open this facility, you have to do a right click. So you put the mouse where it is, on spreadsheet and you do a right click. If you do a right click, you have this small window which is going to appear. Do you have it? Yeah, everyone? So I repeat, you go on the left, you go to the provider window, you go to spreadsheet, you do a right click, and you have this window opening. So I open it, open, and I have another window here. And this other window asks me a lot of things. We don't care about everything. In options, you never touch options. And you go to spreadsheet file, you go on very right, you have here something which is going to open this file, and you are going to look for your data, your Excel file. So let me check where it is. Okay, and I'm going to open the GDP, okay? So is everyone okay? Are you still with me? Yeah?
Yes, I'm okay.
Wonderful. So you click on ASEAN GDP, and I should have access somewhere to yes. So you see that I have here I just precise the address of the file, and I say okay. So now let me go back to my. Apparently nothing happened, but if I click on the plus sign on the left, you see here, I click on it, I can see that I have my spreadsheet. If I open it more, I will have access to every sheet in the Excel file. And if I open one, for example, Brunei Darussalam, I have all the data. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it should be okay for you. If it works, it's wonderful.
It works.
If someone is lost, please just mention that to Siska, and Siska, you stop me, okay?
Okay.
I'm just waiting 1 minute to be sure that everyone is with us. It sounds okay, yeah? No?
Yeah, so okay, everybody says yes, yes. Yeah, we can follow.
Okay, wonderful. So now let us play with the software a bit. It's not easy for me. Okay. We can play with the software. Just before we do seasonal adjustment, let us imagine that I want to have in current price. You see that for Brunei and for every country, I will have a GDP in current price, the breakdown, and after the GDP in constant price, the breakdown. If I double click on the first series, I have here, I do not see well, but I'm going to go back to my sorry, I have to look for my for the Zoom. It's where is the Zoom?
You can use Windows and minus
yeah,
for shortcut.
yeah. It doesn't work very well with my computer. Thank you, Fatou. Thank you. So here you see now, I will stay for the time being, I will stay with my graph here. So you can see this is the figure, the graph of a series. Okay, nothing special. I mean, it just, I will take large. Okay, I will put large. Okay, so you can see the graph. Now, let us imagine, we have a question, no? Someone?
Yes, a question from Lau.
Yeah.
Can you make on the spreadsheet the importing file?
Okay, you want me to do it again? Okay, I will do it again. So I close JDeMetra. Do not close it. Just for the sake of a demonstration, I will come back from scratch, okay? So I open JDeMetra. So now I will try to, okay. I go to spreadsheet, I do a right click. When I click, then if I do the right click, I have this small window. I click on open. When I click on open, in fact, I will open this new window. Okay. In this new window, JDeMetra is asking you where is the file you want to open. So to access to the Explorer, you have to click on the three dots here. You click on that and you open the Explorer and you look to your file now. So it's, for me, it's not, you see, okay. So at the end GDP, I say okay, yes. And I say okay. I say okay again. Okay, so now I have all my data here. I will go back to the, okay. So now I came back to the real size. Is it okay now for everyone? Yeah?
Yes.
I cannot understand anything. There's too many interferences.
Maybe you can write down the difficulties in the chat.
Now we can install the program in my computer. In the computer, I'm just look for the program expert for the to search for the dataset. So
I do not understand anything, Siska.
We cannot hear you clearly, Mr. Yaifong, because it's too echoing. You can write down your question or anything in the chat box.
Hello, Siska. Hello.
Yes.
Okay. So now, now we can install in the computer. Just IT will help me for the install and program in the computer. But
so you can install it, okay? And then can you already import the data? Have you ever? Okay.
But we cannot open for the
you cannot open your Excel file.
Yeah. So
Have you tried to follow what Dominic just? Yeah. Have you able to import it now?
Perhaps we have two options. Either we continue or we share. If you can share the screen so we can see what's going on their screen.
Yeah.
Fatur, can you ask him to share the screen? I will stop.
Okay, I will try to share my screen first.
Yes.
Just to test.
Fatur, all the
test if
participants
I,
can
okay.
share their screen.
So everyone can share their screen.
Okay.
Tiara,
Yeah.
Tiara?
Everyone,
Okay.
every participants can share their screen now, so it should be okay though.
Okay, so I'm trying to share my screen.
Okay.
Dominic, I found that we can just click and drop actually, yeah? For example.
Yes, but yes, you can. You can do that, but yes, so you can share your okay. So perhaps
my screen, yeah?
Yeah, we can see it. So if you're our friend from Lao PDR can do the same. So you have
Mr. Fong, you can see that I have Windows Explorer here, which is showing my folder, data folder. You see, this is one file, SNGDP. You see, right? No? Let me make it bigger. So this is my file, folder file. This is using Excel.
We do not see it.
Okay, and this is JDemetra. The shortcut ways is for you, maybe it's more simple. Just click the ASEAN GDP and then drag to spreadsheet here. And then release. You see that the spreadsheet file already there, and then click OK. The second step is click the spreadsheet sign plus on the left side.
Okay.
Here you see spreadsheet and then click the sign plus and you see this is the file is there already open. And if you click the plus sign also there, you see the worksheet there. I think this is what Dominic has explained. But I choose the shortcut on putting the data on the JDemetra.
Maybe now we can see the iPhone screen. Maybe he can share the screen so we know what is difficulty.
Okay, stop share. Yeah.
iPhone, can you share the screen to us so we can see it together? And Dominic can help you?
Yes, I can ask it.
But you have to make sure that the data is already in your computer.
Yeah.
Yes. And you know where's the data, so it's easy for you. You can select share screen on the Zoom, and then we can see your screen, your computer screen. Share screen and you select the JDemetra or the screen that you want to share.
In your Zoom menu, there is a green in the middle, bottom middle, there is a green screen on share screen. You can share.
Have you found it, Mr. Ifong?
Maybe I cannot say for the IT. So maybe I can but I can share you for other.
No. I mean, currently you are facing difficulties in importing the data, right? So we ask you to share your screen. You select at the bottom of the Zoom. You can find the green menu in share screen, and then you can share your screen, and we can guide you how to import the data and how to break down each of the sheets there. No, you cannot find the share screen.
I think we will guide Mr. Yaifong after the session, Siska.
Yeah,
Yes.
probably.
Yeah,
And
that's
maybe
better,
asking everyone, do they have
Okay.
successfully doing this step?
Okay.
Everyone have a problem?
It's a good idea, Fatou.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we can do for the registration.
Okay, then we can continue.
I can
Mr.
continue, yeah. Okay, good. So I do it again because I'm not sure I have my. Okay, so I did. So let me take. So I took the first one for Brunei. So if you double click on it, you can find immediately the graph. Okay. Now, if I want, for example, to do the annual growth rate, I can do it. You go to, follow me, okay? You go to tools. You go to container. So you see tools, container.
Yes.
And after you go to growth chart. So tools, container, growth chart. Okay, so I click on it. I open a new window. Okay, you see that here I still have my window, the graph. I open a new window. Yeah, and I just have to put my series in it, drag and drop the series. So here I have a quarter-to-quarter growth rate, which is a nonsense for seasonal series. So if I want to have the annual growth rate, I finish the demonstration, I do it again just after. I have to right-click on the graph to go to kind, and after to select the previous year. So here I have the annual growth rate. So let me show you it again. So I remove it, okay? I will, so I show it, tools, container, tools, container, chart, growth chart, and I drag and drop the series I want to check. This is this one, okay? The GDP current price by industry, the total.
Yes.
I right click on the graph because here I have a quarter-to-quarter growth rate. I go to kind and previous year. And here I have
Okay.
the graph. Is it okay?
Yeah. Previous period.
So I will do it again. Okay. Let me do it again. So now I have nothing, okay? I'm going to create a graph. Tool, container, growth chart. I put the series in it. I have a growth chart, but I have a quarter to quarter growth. So it's not what I want. I want the annual growth rate. So I go to kind, right click on the graph, kind, previous year, and I have my annual growth rate chart. So is it, what is interesting here? Of course, you have a growth chart, but you can, for example, if I want to compare the evolution of quarterly GDP of Brunei and of Indonesia, I just have to take the GDP, Indonesian GDP, and I put it. And I have the two graphs the same, okay? So in green, I have Indonesia here, and in orange, I have Brunei. Okay?
Yeah.
And you can do the comparison. I mean, I did this one. I can do a lot of things. What is also interesting is that if you do a right click here, I open again my, my toolbox, and you have here something which is export image to, and I can save this graph in the clipboard. Let me show you what I used to do. When I want to study a file, something, I open a Word document, okay? I have my Word document here, okay? I will open it. Here I have my Word document. Now I go back to JDemetra. I'm doing my analysis. And I think that this graph, for example, I think that this graph worth to be saved. So I do a right click on the graph, export to clipboard. I go back to Word, and I do a Control V, and I have my graph here. So you see, when I'm studying something, I can do this kind of thing. I open a Word document, I begin to write things, I put the graphs, I comment the graphs, and so on. So it's very, very convenient. We are far from seasonal adjustment at this moment. I understand that, but we are analyzing time series. Do you have any question on that? No? Okay, so I'm going to remove the graph, okay? I close this window. Now, the next step I want to do, it will be an exercise again for you. I will read again a new file, a new spreadsheet. Now I will read the trade statistics, okay? So to do that, I go to spreadsheet again. You can drag and drop it as Fatur did just before, but you also can do what I show you. So you do a right click on spreadsheet, open, and you look to your data, okay? ASEAN trade quarterly data. I put it, okay, and okay. So I have here my trade statistics. Sorry, it's okay. So I have here both my trade statistics and my GDP statistics. Is it okay for everyone?
Dominic,
Yeah.
actually using this JDemetra, there are many functions here. But I found one function which is very useful. The problem is when I just click there, here and there, sometimes the windows is disappear. So I found this Windows reset function is very useful. Could you show us, I think, Windows reset function, which is renormalize the view of the JDemetra. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatou. Okay, is it? Do we have questions from the floor? Or is everything okay? I have a question. Okay, I got it clearly. Is it okay? It seems that there's no problem at this moment. Wonderful.
I have a question from my one participant, which is he or her file could not show the list of this worksheet, I think. So I suggest the problem is on the clicking on the plus sign on the left side.
Here you mean?
Yeah. Sometimes people not clicking there.
Okay.
So we don't know the reaction of the application.
So is it okay for everyone now? Did they click on the right button? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so I will continue a bit. Let me check. I think I have to explain something before we go now to the complete demonstration for seasonal adjustment. I have to explain something more. Yeah. Okay. So you remember what I said just before, that you must have an Excel date variable to be sure that JDemetra can read your Excel file, okay? So you will have here, how you can, I should perhaps make some more screenshots to explain people how to read the data, but you can write your data now. Now, the next point is that we would like to run a default seasonal adjustment. So I have to explain you a couple of things before we do that. You have to understand what is going to be done by the software. When you ask to a software to do something, for example, I will ask JDemetra to run a seasonal adjustment. JDemetra needs something, some instruction to do that. First, of course, we saw that he needs the data. So we provide him with the data. Now, it has to know which software, which method you want to use. As I told you just before, mainly in JD+, you have two methods. One is called Tramoseats, which is coming from Agustin Maraval from the Bangkok, Spain. And another one is X13. X13 is the last version of a long series, a long family of methods based on moving averages. The first one was X0, X1, X2. The most well-known is X11, and after you had X12 and X13. So X13 is the last version of this long family of seasonal adjustments of program. So you have to choose one of the two. I have been told that ASEAN is more in favor of X13. This is the choice of the IMF also. This is the choice of the OECD. A lot of international organizations recommend to use X13. So we are going to study X13 in this session, okay, in this week. But in fact, when you choose the software, so X13, we will have to precise a set of parameters to X13 to perform the adjustment. Of course, at the moment, I will just show you a very complex table just to give you a flavor of what is going to do the software. So you have here this table. The first part is devoted to thrombocytes, so we don't care about it, and we go to X13, okay? So you have several default set of parameters. It looks complex, but it is not. In fact, each set of parameters will ask to the software to perform some task. For example, let me take RSA3. So what is going to do automatically the software? It's going to test. I will explain every one during the week, okay? It will, let us take the more complex one, sorry. So the RSA5C, doesn't matter the name, but the more complex one will be, okay. It will automatically look for if your series follow is additive or multiplicative. I will explain that tomorrow. It will automatically check if you have a leap year effect. So if the fact that February has 28 or 29 days has an importance in the series. It will look for trading day effect, which means that do Monday different from Tuesday, from Friday, and so on, okay? It will check if we have an Easter effect and check if you have outliers in your series. Automatically, everything will be done automatically. And at the end of the day, it will even adjust an ARIMA model to your time series. So it's a lot of things that are going to be done automatically by the software if you ask for this default set of parameters. What we are going to use, we are going to use the RSA1 set of parameters. Let me explain you very briefly why. It is my experience that for quarterly series, this set of parameters performs very well. So you will ask the software automatically to check if there's an additive or multiplicative model. I will explain that tomorrow or the day after. We are not going to look for calendar effects because my experience is that you will find very scarcely significant trading day effect, calendar effect in quarterly time series. It will check for outliers in the series, and it will adjust a model, which is called an ARIMA model. I just mentioned that at this point because the ARIMA model that is going to be adjusted to the series will permit us to estimate the missing values. If you remember for Myanmar, we have 2 missing values, and you will see that the software is going to estimate them. So to come back to our software, here, if I want JDemetra if I want to ask JDemetra to adjust this series, I have to tell JDemetra which kind of software I'm going to use. So first thing, I'm going to tell JDemetra that I want to seasonally adjust time series. Okay, so I go to statistical method. I can use perhaps the loop, the zoom. So I go here to statistical method. I have several statistical methods. So I will go, I'm going to choose seasonal adjustment. I'm not going to detail what are the others. It's at the moment we skip on, we stay on seasonal adjustment. multiprocessing because I want to adjust a lot of series, and new. Okay, so I will click on that. So just remember, I'll redo it. Statistical method, seasonal adjustment, multiprocessing, new, and then click on it. Okay, so this is what happens for me. For me, I say, because for you, it could be quite different. Not quite different, slightly different. So everyone is on this screen. Yeah? Is there any problem? No?
No, everyone is in this screen. Yeah, follow.
Okay.
You can follow.
So if everyone is that, you pay attention to what is here. You have here a button, and on my screen, it is written X13 RSA5C. But on your screen, it could be something different. If you just installed yesterday or 2 days ago JDemetra on your computer, it's like, and it is, if it is the first time you are using it, it is likely that you have TS, you have this one. Let me show you. It is likely that you have this kind of, you have that. So let me explain you. So in fact, if you click on the arrow, you should have something like that or something like that. Or you can open, okay? So you open them, and you see that you have here the list of default parameters I show you just before on the slide. So you have to tell JDemetra which software you are going to use. I'm going to use X13. And which set of parameters you want to use. So I ask you to choose RSA1.
RSA1,
Okay?
okay.
You will see that the first time it's always not confusing, but it's a lot of information. So you will find your way, and tomorrow it will be very easy for you. And I will show you later, not today, how to keep this default specification to keep it every time you open the software. Okay, so you did it, and now it's very easy. You take the data, you put them, and you can take the two files. I did it on purpose. Perhaps I should not do it because it's a lot of time series. Sorry. Excuse me. So you see that I drag and drop my two Excel files in the window, in the SR processing one window. And I see that I have 486 time series, which is quite a lot, okay? Let me come back to the usual size. Okay, here I am. So I have here, as you can see on your own screen, 486 series. Now I'm going to click on the green arrow to run the adjustment, okay? So let me just click on it. And you see that it's done for me because I have a pretty powerful computer. It's already done. So in a second, in just 1 second, JDemetra analyzed 486 time series. So it's incredibly fast, okay? Did you succeed to run the adjustment?
Yes.
Is someone lost? No? Just checking the, no problem, no problem. Everyone seems okay. That's wonderful, okay? So you see that everything, okay, what do I have? So on the left here, I have the name of a series. I have, in fact, the sheet and the name of a series, okay? Here I have the method I used. So when it's called, I have it here also. So it's 613, and I'm using the default set of parameters RSA1, okay? I skip this one. Status means just that there's no problem to do the job. It seems that we have a message, no? What file? Ah, okay. Oh, because he just used the quarterly national accounts, I guess. It's not a problem. You can continue. Don't worry about the number of. We will go back. We will show you the results on quarterly accounts. Okay, so you have here status valid. Just means that JDemetra could do the computations. For example, if you enter an empty time series, nothing, no value, the status will be invalid because JDemetra cannot do any computation. And here I have a rough evaluation of the quality of the adjustment. So you can see that sometimes you have good, sometimes you have severe, and so on. Okay, so if you go here, we have the exports, the imports. After the total, at the end, I have a quarterly accounts. So here I have a quarterly accounts. Okay. So let me tell you some things now, and after we will have a look to the data. When we are working with the GDP series, it's by industry, so it's a very high level of classification. The series are really aggregated. Is there a problem? You can see that there's some things on the chat. Okay, I got it. Yeah, it's okay. So when you are working with GDP, it's a high level of classification. So usually the data are not erratic. They do not have a lot of irregular. They are pretty smooth, and you certainly have very few difficulties to adjust them. When you are working with imports and exports, it's another story. Here, I guess this is ASEAN export and import, so it's a quite high level of the classification. But if you are doing that at the national level, your series might be very, very volatile and pretty erratic, a lot of irregular. So it's likely that you will have more problems when you are working with low level of a classification than when you were working at the high level of classification. So we will, during this week, we will go through not all the series, but most of the series to check what means severe, what means error, what means uncertain, and so on. Okay, so don't worry too much about that. I wanted to show you, let us take, for example, Indonesia. I will take the constant prices. Okay, Indonesia, constant prices by industry. Okay, I take this one. When I click on it, I have immediately this kind of graph that appears. Are you with me, everyone? I guess so now. It's not complex. So you go to Indonesia, GDP constant price by industry, the total, okay? So if you go to the series, if you click on it, you will see that this kind of graph happens, okay? So what do we have? We have, can you read it? Yeah, is it okay for everyone? I guess so, yeah. So I continue. So you have the estimation span from 2010 first quarter to the third quarter of 2020, 43 observation. First thing, the series has been log transformed, which means that the software detects that the model is multiplicative. I will explain that tomorrow or the day after. Do not be afraid by the technical details. It's just that you should feel comfortable in running the software because it's not complex, okay? No trading day effect, no Easter effect does not mean that you do not have them. It just remember that when I ask for the default set of specification RSA1, I said I do not want to estimate any calendar effect, so I do not have. And I have 3 detected outliers, okay? If I want to know more about that, I can go in pre-processing here, and I will see more details, more statistical details. I will skip them for most part. We will come back later on them. And here you have the 3 default, the 3 outliers. I will explain them. So something, there's no surprise. There's outliers at the beginning of first quarter of 2020 and second quarter of 2020. We know that. There's no big surprise on that, okay? But we have this.
Yeah.
So let me continue to comment just a bit things. And after, of course, we will dedicate most of us the week to understand all the results. If I look to the diagnostics, I can see that everything is good. For example, I will detail that later, but everything is green, so everything is good, except one, which is the number of outliers. So it's written bad. It means that JDemetra Plus thinks that to have 3 outliers when you have only 43 observations, it's too much. But we don't care about that. Here we know that we should have outliers because they have an economic explanation. This is the COVID crisis, and there's no way to do a proper seasonal adjustment without outliers. Once again, I will explain the outliers in 2 days, I guess, something like that. Okay, so everything is good, and in particular, I will mention the last things. He says that there's no residual trading day effect. So you have something residual trading day test. There's no residual trading day effect. So the hypothesis to say we do not have trading day effects was right. It was a good hypothesis because we do not have this kind of thing. And residual seasonality test, there's no residual seasonality, so it's okay. So we did a good job for this series. So perhaps we can improve the adjustment, but we can see that everything is pretty okay. Whenever I have a look to this kind of series, well, I can see, perhaps I'm wrong, but I doubt I'm wrong. I can see that certainly, I do not remember which is the series. It's Indonesia, I guess, yeah. I guess that this series has been reconstructed. This is not, for me, perhaps I'm wrong. this is not an observed time series. So I would say the following. I would say that this series has been reconstructed from annual data with a temporal disaggregation process. I would say that it's too clean to be, let us say, with cut marks true. So for me, most of the series has been reconstructed from, and this is often the case. For example, a country decided to publish quarterly national accounts since 2015. So they decided to do that. So they construct the quarterly national accounts from this date, but before they retropolate the time series, or they do temporal disaggregation using annual data. So in this case, you will find something very, very neat as it is right now. So am I right, Siska? Yeah. When did you started in Indonesia to compute really the quarterly accounts?
This is data, the person in charge is Fatur for GDP. So maybe you can answer what happened in Indonesia.
This is from member state. We collected like 3 or 4 years ago, but the series is starting 2010.
Yes, but my feeling, we should, I mean, it's not important, not important. My feeling is that this series, of course, they didn't, perhaps they did, but
Yeah.
I think that they didn't start the computation in 2010. They started the computation later, as usual, I mean, as every country does. Perhaps they started in 2010, and that they reconstruct the series after, because it's too, you have no irregular in this series. You have absolutely no irregular,
Yeah.
which is not possible from the statistical point of view. So my feeling, I mean, it's not a critique. Don't take it wrong. Don't take it wrong at all. Huh? It's just the way it is. I mean, I'm working with Angola right now. They started the computation in 2014. Okay, so but they published the results since 2002. So all the past has been reconstructed from annual data with a model. So it's very neat before, and after it's observed. When you observe things, when you compute things, you have irregular. That's life, okay? But when you build the model, you have no irregular. So here, there's no irregular. So I suspect, but I could be wrong, that most of the series has been reconstructed from annual data with a temporal disaggregation model, Shaolin or whatever. Okay, doesn't matter. So here, the good point is that there is absolutely no problem to seasonally adjust this series. It's very, very clear. Okay, you have no problem. You can see here the graph on the right is the graph of the seasonal factors. So I can see that in Indonesia, the third quarter is the most important, and that the production is 2%, 2.5% above the normal. The second quarter is very close to the normal situation, and so on. So you see, after I will detail what are the dots, the blue line and the red line. But you have a global picture here. The lowest, from the GDP perspective in constant prices, the lowest quarter is the Q1. After you have the Q4, Q2, and Q3 is the most important. I would like to go somewhere, which it was for Myanmar, we had, if you remember, we had missing values. So let me go to Myanmar. So it was there, okay? So I will go to current price. So, okay. Here we do have another story. You see, it's not so clean that it was for Indonesia. So probably, and we have missing values. You see them here in the graph. You see that you have no line here between these, okay? We have no line for the end of 2018. So here is the, we will detail that later, okay? So, but let us go to see what happens. So if I click, perhaps I should increase the size. Okay. Okay. So I selected for Myanmar, I selected the GDP at current price by industry. And you can see that here you have some missing values. You have no green, no orange line here. Okay? You have no orange line. It's okay. So now, in main results, I have several items. I will go to table. Okay. And here I have the tables. I mean, I have the series, the seasonally adjusted series, the trend cycle, the seasonal component, the irregular. But if you remember well, we had missing values in 2008. Okay, too bad. I'm not lucky. This is the bad point with, okay. So we had, remember that we had missing values in 2018. And here we do not have any missing values. Okay, because the software estimated them. So you have, this is a good thing. You have here a complete quarterly GDP with no missing values, okay? And if you look at the end of, if you look at the end, excuse me, I'm lost with this Zoom. It's not very convenient, but anyway, it's better than nothing. And you can see that you also have forecasts for 2021. So in the output, you have a lot of things that we are going to detail later, okay? So here you can see that you have values for the trend cycle in green. This one is the trend cycle. This one is the seasonally adjusted series. You see that you have estimated values for when you add your missing values in the raw data. It doesn't prevent the software to give you estimates for the complete year 2018. Okay? So I will stop today on this part. So just let me summarize a bit what we did. As there's a question on the Siska is working.
Yes.
Okay. Don't worry too much. This is a first. I mean, it was a first contact with JDemetra. I do not. My objective is not that you understand everything. Just think that you were able in a couple of seconds to run a software and to seasonally adjust about 500 time series. It's not difficult. I mean, you need some practice. Of course, you need some practice, but it's just the the first lesson today. So you will see that tomorrow you will get more, it will be easier for you, and the day after more easier, and so on. So do not worry. You see, so for today, if I want to summarize, and after we will open the questions if we can, to summarize what we learned today, mostly is that you have to pay attention seriously to the use of a year-on-year growth rate. The annual growth rate might be very, very dangerous to use. So pay attention to that, especially when you are in the economy is facing a strong recovery or a strong decrease. You have to pay really attention to that. Okay, so this is the first thing we have in mind, and that the annual growth rate have two big defaults. First, it supposes that the seasonality is constant through time, and it supposes also that the calendar effects are the same, and we know that in some occasions these two hypotheses are wrong. So take care, be prudent with the annual growth rate, which is the first thing we learned today. The second thing is that even if it is your first time with JDemetra, it's really not difficult to run it. Okay, I know that I'm used to do that, but I know also that it's not difficult. You can do a lot of things very, very quickly. So it's not a problem to run it. After, we will have to understand what we are doing, but it's just the first 3 hours, okay? Give us time to learn more things after, okay? So I will stop today now, but I'm open to any question, of course. So do not hesitate to ask questions on what we saw today, and the floor is yours now. So I stop to share the screen.
Yeah.
And okay, so let me go back to see gallery. Okay. So I can see your face now. Oh, you look very serious. Oh, Balia, you look very serious. It's better, much better when you smile. So do you have any question?
Or Dominique will have question for all the participants.
You have question from everyone? No, okay. I understand that we did a lot of things to do today, so you should have a lot of questions. But my objective for today, so the first question will be, was it really difficult to run JDemetra? After that, you do not understand what you did, it's another story. That's why we have a training. But was it easy to do it? I think yes, except if you have technical problems. And the second thing is, do you understand that you have to be very cautious with the annual growth rate? I hope the answer is yes, but not sure. So of course you have a lot of questions. Why do I have to, if I click there, what do I have? What does it mean? What is the blue curve? What is the red curve? We will see that this week. But it was, I think, was it easy to run JDemetra? That's the question.
Yeah.
How do you feel, Siska?
At the first time when I started to use in 2019, that was my first impression. What is this? How can I open this? How can I get the seasonally adjusted data? I don't know it. And then I start to play with all the buttons there, and then I can open a chart, can open the tables. And then I finally got that, oh, the seasonally adjusted data is from the table. Then I can use that one. Then the others will follow later. I will ask Dominique again. So that's my first impression at the first time.
We have a lot of questions.
Yeah, yeah.
We have a question on the minimal number of observation to perform seasonal adjustment. By the way, I already answered to the question before, but it's just a question of basic common sense. Okay, seasonal adjustment means by definition that you want to estimate the seasonal component, to estimate it and remove it. Okay, so I want to estimate the seasonal component. What is the seasonal component? Basically, the seasonal component means that in your series, the first quarter is different from the second quarter and different from the third quarter. And we saw that on the example for Indonesia. The first quarter is lower than the second and the third quarter. Always. It's always lower. So this is the seasonal component. Okay. So I want to compare the quarter. So I need to have an estimation of the first quarter. How can I mean, in statistics, when you want to have an estimate of an average, you want, okay, the size of you need at least 3 observations. If you have just 1 observation, you cannot say nothing. Okay, if I want to have a difference between the size of men and women, I mean, I must have at least 3 men and 3 women to do an average of 8 and just to make the difference. So that's the point. And by the way, JDemetra will not work if you have less than 3 years. It will not work. And to be honest, 3 years, I mean, if the series are like the Indonesian time series, 3 years, it's okay. Okay. But the second one we saw was much more difficult. So probably 3 years is not enough to have a good estimate. You will find in the guidelines some advices on the real, the good size length of the time series. They say something like between 7 and 10 years. Why not? So the real question would be, because in statistics, in usual statistics, the more observation you have, the better. Okay, if the size of the sample, the higher, the better. Okay, but it's not true in a time series. Why? Because if you have 20 years of data and you measure the industrial production, it's likely that the country itself had changed a lot in 20 years. A lot. And for example, the product the production now has nothing to see with the production 20 years ago. You do not produce the same things. The techniques have changed, a lot of things, the society had changed, and so everything changed. So it's likely, it's likely that the data generating process from the statistical point of view had changed. And so too long is sometimes not too good, okay? Too short is definitely bad. And after, it's just a question of knowing the economy of the country and the statistical process. For example, for Indonesia, it doesn't matter because most of the series has been retropolated. My guess is that it has been reconstructed, and they were right to do that, okay? It's not a critique, once again. They should provide the user with long time series, okay? You should do that because okay, so no doubt. After you have no data, you start the quarterly national account in, let us say, 2014. You start then. You do not have figures before. So, but your duty is to reconstruct the data before. So you do your best, okay? No problem. But you see that for this kind of time series, I have no problem to seasonally adjust it because it's a model. I mean, I can calculate it mathematically. If you give me the model, I will tell you the seasonally adjusted figures are this one. So the question, to come back to the question of the right size of the adjustment is a difficult question. It has no absolute answer. It depends on the method. It depends on the country. It depends on a lot of data themselves. But one thing is sure, if you have less than 3 years, you're done. You cannot do anything serious. You can take a guess. I mean, you can just say, okay, I have 2 years, I will do the average, and that's it. But you will see when it's not tomorrow, but the day after or the day this week, by the way, we will work with moving averages, and you will see the point. You will see definitely that you have problems. It's okay. So I hope I answer to the question. There's a lot of things on the chat, so let me check. Thank you. It's easy to learn. Ha ha ha. Lunch training. Okay. I understand the message. Okay, you want to go to lunch. Okay, wonderful.
Breakfast for you, Dominique. Breakfast for Dominique.
I will go back to sleep now. No, so we will stop perhaps today, except of course if there's a question, I will be very happy. There's a chat.
We'll launch a polling, maybe just
okay.
to make.
So if you need, this is the question. Okay, I have to answer.
It's up to you.
So okay, I will answer. Did you experience any IT technical problem? No. What is your first feeling about using?
ED.
Yeah. I would say it's easy, but I understand behind it's complex.
Should be multiple choice.
So it's a multiple choice. So I won't say correct. I would say both easy and complex. But there's no, I understand. It's easy to run, but we feel immediately that, oh, wow, it's too simple to be honest. Okay, something is complex behind. But we have time to understand everything. So I would say, to be honest, I will say correct. Not difficult to run, but using it.
Yeah.
So I will submit.
The training. To using it in training.
I submitted my my answer. Is there any question? No, it's okay. So we can stop perhaps now. What do you think, Maria?
Yeah, you sure?
Yeah. Siska, yeah.
I think, we can. Yeah, I think we can continue tomorrow. Perhaps tomorrow it will be some question coming, because after this the participant will play with the JDemetra, and then they can find some question and then give it to you. Yeah.
No, you will
Thank
see
you
that,
for today, Dominique.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
To everyone. So I see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock for you, at 4 o'clock in the morning for me. But it's okay. I mean, now I will sleep again. Okay, for sure. But I will be happy to see you tomorrow. Okay. So thanks again for your smile. Even if you have mask, some of you.
Thank you for all the
I can
participants.
understand.
Thank you,
I see that
everyone.
your
Thank you,
eyes are
everyone.
smiling. So see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you
Bye.
tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
And I think Yaifong has successfully installed
Yeah.
JDemetra, yeah?
Yeah.
Yaifong? I
Wonderful.
think
Oh,
you
yeah,
should
we can
you have
see.
successfully installed.
Oh, wonderful. So we will see that tomorrow. Okay. So bye to everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yaifong, you have run the JDemetra now, right? It runs.
Now I can import for the data to the program, but I cannot do for the information for not now. So now I
Perhaps
you
can share.
you can go to YouTube again and see the steps there also. And if you have question now, you can ask now. But if you want to, if you want to see again, I think you can go to YouTube and then see what we are adding today.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I can go to it.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, Siska.
Okay.
The lunch box will be coming or?
Prasmanan Pak, prasmanan, nggak ada lunchbox.
Okay. Thank you, Pak.
Thank you ya. See you
Hari.
tomorrow.
Thank you. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.